Welcome to the space between two lines. I'm Alex Saunders, and this is a space for real, honest conversations about fertility, pregnancy loss, and the journey to parenthood. Here, we hear the stories of people navigating the highs, the lows, and everything in between. A place to feel seen, understood, and less alone. Because every story matters, and so does yours. Welcome to the space between two lines. I'm your host, Alex Saunders. Today's episode features Steph, a deeply brave mum sharing her experience of recurrent pregnancy loss while trying for her second child. Her journey is one of heartbreak, resilience, and quiet strength. By sharing the realities behind the waiting and the grief, Steph's honesty offers comfort and connection to anyone navigating a similar path. I'm so honoured to have her here. Welcome, Steph.
Thanks. Nice for having me.
Thank you so much for being very brave today and sharing your story. I know it's going to mean a lot to anyone listening who might be navigating a similar path at the moment. Before we begin, so to begin, did you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your family, and then perhaps what life looked like before you started trying for your second baby?
Cool. So I'm Steph and I'm a pediatric OT. And life, I got married in 2019 to my lovely husband, Cam. He's a plumber. We got married in Byron Bay, which was beautiful. And I guess unbeknownst to us at the time, I was actually 6 weeks pregnant, which was a surprise. And like a beautiful surprise, but it was nice, I guess, not to have the pressure of, are you having a baby? Which we got directly after getting married, as you often do. And so, we found out that just before going to the Maldives for our honeymoon. And then life as a little family begun in January 2020. Sterling came along. And then life after that, I guess, was COVID. So navigating a newborn with COVID and that other thing.
Fun. And I mean, your pregnancy from falling pregnant with Sterling was very straightforward, right? Pretty textbook.
Yeah.
Birth pretty textbook.
Yeah.
So there was no real issues there and nothing kind of to think about when moving into the next stage of your life and thinking about a second child. At what point did that start coming into your mind, or did you have those conversations that you guys were ready to start trying for a second? And when did you want to do that?
I think in our minds, you're sort of thinking about a nice age gap between kids. And so I guess we were sort of thinking 2 years, but then we also had your wedding, and I knew that I wanted to be able to celebrate and not be pregnant, I guess, for that. So we were also holding off for that, but obviously that got pushed back with COVID. And so you're not going to change your family plans just to not be pregnant at a wedding. And I guess our first sort of pregnancy loss following Sterling turned out that it was like my first period coming back, that's what I thought it was. So that was only 12 months after Sterling. And I guess like sort of sitting there in the hospital, being sad that this has happened, but also obviously not knowing that you were pregnant at the time was a lot of mixed sort of feelings with that. And I guess after that was sort of when we were like, well, you definitely sort of want to be starting because you just don't know what your journey is going to be like.
Yeah, so with that first loss, you weren't aware that you were pregnant. You just thought you were having your first period, and then obviously found out that, you lost a baby. But I guess did that open your eyes to think that, this is something that we really want for our family now, going through that, or was it still a bit of a shock and something that because you hadn't planned for it? Like, how did that feel in that moment?
I think because it wasn't planned that, there was a lot of mixed feelings because I was like, what had I done wrong? For this to sort of happen, or, because Sterling happened so easily and there was no concerns there or red flags or anything. And so I guess after that, and after getting over, I guess, the bit of a shock of being pregnant and not knowing, and then, also, I guess, navigating the loss of that. And I guess as soon as you get as soon as you find out you're pregnant, even if it's in a lost moment, you sort of do think, or I did, you think about the life that might have been. Yeah. Yeah, but so then, I guess after that it was sort of like, we definitely wanted more anyway. But then I think, it was like nice to sort of, they, I guess that brought up the chat about, when would we want another baby, and like if we just sort of try to get pregnant again, but not, what am I trying to say? Like, yes, let's try to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Purposely, I suppose, after that, rather than just seeing how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just going to absolutely get better nice, isn't it? We'll check it. No good. Yeah, cool. And so after you had that loss and you had made that decision that you were going to actively start trying for another baby, what were your expectations around that, considering your first pregnancy was quite straightforward? And then obviously you'd had this unexpected loss. What were your expectations moving forward into that period?
I think I had the same sort of expectation that it was going to be like easy for us. I think just because getting pregnant didn't seem to be a problem, I suppose, because with Sterling, like we went, we thought we'd sort of move into the, getting the honeymoon sort of baby, like going off contraception stuff, but it happened quicker than we'd anticipated, which was nice. And then, sorry, what was the question?
So just that's what your expectations were. So you thought that it was going to be quite
I did
straightforward and rose eyes. Yeah,
quite easy, and that you'd have the 2.6 kids by the time you're ex-mount.
Yes, for sure. And at what point did you realize that it wasn't going to be such a straightforward journey for you guys?
I think probably like the next pregnancy, like, you get your hopes up and you sort of again start to think about the life that you can have together with the baby. But then that was sort of cut short because the first sort of dating scan, it was a blighted ovum. So again, and then I think, you're sort of like, oh, can you do it again? Yeah. And how are you going to, is this slow?
Yeah, anyway. Oh, just have a moment. It's fine.
Yeah, can you, like the joys of obviously having a baby far outweighs the losses, but how many can you endure, I suppose? Yeah. Especially when you have we have a beautiful boy, and so, I guess there was that also weighing up, like, are we just happy with him because he's perfect, and, maybe that will be our family and that will be great, but, it would be nice to have a sibling and to go through pregnancy again and, to have babies, to feel like if your family is complete.
Yeah, for sure. And you've already spoken a little bit about this, but if you feel comfortable, could you tell us what those losses felt like for you, or talk us through your losses and how that felt emotionally and physically? Like, you've already touched on this a little bit.
Yeah. I think when I went to the dating scan and they were sort of like, oh, we can't see the sac, I think I knew that there wasn't anything, like that the baby wasn't viable, but they were like, oh, it's might be too early, for us to know, so you'll have to do a scan again, later. But I guess when you're planning a baby, you know when your last period was, and you sort of know if you are pregnant, where you'd be up to when you're going for those sort of scans. So I guess I knew, but then there's also that glimmer of hope, I suppose, because they're kind of giving you the hope. And I guess unfortunately in that scan, they didn't actually measure the yolk, also the sac. So that kind of pushed out things because they always want to give the baby the benefit of the doubt, I suppose. So they're not going to support you terminating the non-viable fetus if it could survive. So I then had to kind of wait to have 2 scans to then be confirmed that it's not. And I guess your body's going through all of the signs and symptoms that you are, like you'll like I was still getting nausea. And so you sort of like, oh, my body's telling me that I am, but like, you know, that there's nothing there. And then obviously that pregnancy was, or that loss was, so weird because of what happened like with that. That was probably the worst one because it was just prolonged.
Yeah.
And because I chose, like, once I knew that it wasn't going to turn out to be our extra family member, you know, I went down a path of, rather than having the DNC, is that what it's called?
Yeah, DNC.
I went down the medication route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do this again? Yeah. We can do it again. But don't worry, like it's all going to be edited. So, if you don't mind me asking, in the lead up to obviously your beautiful girl Ruby,
Yes.
did you have 3 losses in total?
Yeah. 3 losses. Yeah. So I haven't talked about the third one because I guess the most recent one was the most sort of traumatic.
Yeah.
And the other ones was just sort of the one in between was more just like the missed pregnancy because it was pregnancy.
It was scary. Yeah. But there's never a just, because I think the moment you see those 2 lines, your whole life changes.
Yeah. And you do envision that baby and what life's going to look like. And I think it's probably just language that you hear from other people of like, oh, you know, it was just like, you didn't know you were pregnant, so like, surely it's not that bad or whatever. And yeah. And I do now know that you are in like a loss is a loss. Like, yeah.
Do you want to get beautiful Olive? Might take a break. She might need a little. Okay, so you have touched on all of your pregnancy losses and a lot about how that felt. But did each one? How did you feel with each loss? Like, did your emotions change as you moved through that journey? Did anything change for you with each loss, and how did that feel?
Good question. I think the losses felt a bit more profound each time because it also is like your hope of having more feels like it's going to get harder and harder. And then what is your journey going to look like?
Was there a sense of fear?
I think I did a good job of trying to just squash the emotions and then not thinking too much about it, to try and, I guess, move through the dark days of just wondering whether it's going to happen for you again. So yeah, I guess there was that level of fear of your body not doing what you want it to do. When are you going to call it quits? And also like getting older. You know, I knew that I didn't want to be trying to have babies after I was 40. So that clock is also ticking. And I guess, with like the most recent before Ruby, like I sort of had to wait 12 weeks to have it like be successful in terms of the medication side of things. And so then you kind of like, that was 3 months of like, I guess you look at it as like, oh, unfortunately that was a waste of 3 months. And then you're like, well, it was also the trying beforehand. And then how long are we going to have to try for to get, another maybe 3 months, or like, is it going to last, I guess. And then I think it sort of, I know with, Ruby, it sort of felt a bit like, you went in not enjoying the pregnancy because I did love being pregnant, but you're sort of like, you're waiting for the bad news. And so it sort of robs a little bit of the joy out of it.
1,000%.
Yeah.
And during that time, before you were pregnant with Ruby, did you ever feel a sense of pressure from anybody around you, and then also any kind of pressure that you were putting on yourself?
I think the pressure kind of came from just, and it's just flippant comments about like, oh, you don't want to leave it too much longer, or like, are you going to have any more? And you're sort of like, well, if you knew, like, you wouldn't be asking that kind of questions, or and it always sort of comes from people that, it's like loved ones that sort of say stuff, and they don't mean anything by it, obviously. And like, I've been open with some people about our losses, but some people you're not, and so you're like, well, it's not your fault. But, maybe there's reasons why there's that gap.
Yeah. And I think it's important for people to be cautious about the things that they say. It could be the smallest comment, but you could have had the worst news in the world that day or month.
That's right. Yeah.
So it is important to kind of think about the things that you're saying, because you don't ever really know what someone is going through.
And that's just a life.
Yeah,
generally.
exactly. Yeah. And I think it's getting better in this space, but I think there's definitely room for improvement.
Yeah. And sometimes people just say things for the sake of saying things, like, without realization.
Yeah, for sure. And how did you navigate the feelings of those losses while also trying to parent this gorgeous little boy who obviously would have brought you so much joy, but I'm sure there were challenging moments of having to navigate that and navigate being a mum at the same time as feeling those, that heartbreak?
I think he actually is quite onto it, and he just said to me one day that, oh, you're having a baby, and I was like, I've just found out myself, and like I have. So then that kind of brought an extra element, because when I lost the baby, we sort of had to share that with him, with a child who's not really understanding, I guess, what that means, and he still talks about it now. So he knows about one, I suppose. And I guess it does help you, because you're looking at this joy, but then you're also feeling like, oh, it'd be nice to bring, siblings, because then they're asking for siblings, and how nice it would be to give them that.
Yep.
So there is that, you're sort of the devil on your shoulder, clamping of like, you should really be grateful for the child that you have, and he's beautiful, and if our family was just him, it'd be perfect. But then, then on the days where you're sort of like, you're sad about your losses, and you're like, I would like to see my family grow, and give him a sibling, and because you grow up with siblings, and it'd be nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think after already having a child too, it really puts things into perspective, and how much joy and how much you really want something. Yeah, already having that child. And I think with secondary infertility, people sometimes might make comments like, well, at least you've got one child, but that can be a really hard thing, like, to navigate and to hear when you're going through that, and when you desperately want something more than anything in the world. It doesn't take away from how much, pain that, pain you're going throughout that journey. So,
yeah. And I guess that's just another sort of comment that people sort of make, like, at least you've got one. And like, yes, at least you have one, but I want more. Yeah. Then I guess it's like, similar comments when we announced that we were having a third, and you started to get the comments like, what the fuck are you thinking? And then you're like, well, nothing's ever good enough. I'm not betting you to have 3 children. But when I think about my family, when I'm older and we're sitting around the Christmas table, like, there's 3 and their partners, if they have partners and stuff. So I'm not asking you to have the same wants and needs as me, but I also don't want your opinion on me either.
Yeah. There's a lot of unwanted opinion out there. Okay, so when you were, after you did have your losses, did you seek any medical support throughout that time, or did you ever think about seeking any additional medical support other than, I guess, the medical support of the, when you were having the loss?
Yeah. We thought about having like the genetic testing and things like that, but then, we opted to not, not necessarily under the advisement, but at the times, like, the losses couldn't be explained, I guess. So they were sort of like, and there was time sort of between, like, sort of, a year or 2 years between the losses. So the advice that we kind of got at the time was, there's probably, you could go down the genetic testing if you wanted to, but that might bring up a lot more things, may stop you wanting sort of a family. So it was, I guess, a decision that, we would just sort of keep trying. Yeah. And then I guess if we had another one, then we probably would have, like, if there was sort of, like, after 3, they said, like, maybe you should investigate a bit further. And so luckily we didn't have to sort of do that, because I guess it's hard to make those decisions. Like, if you get all the information, and then you're like, well, maybe you shouldn't have more.
Yeah,
Is it
of course.
kind of-
Yeah. And was that generally the explanation you got for your losses from doctors, that it was probably a genetic issue, or
Not necessarily. We just like, I guess that was where my mind was, that maybe it's coming into play because it was just, early losses. And we were both very like fit and healthy. And so there wasn't like no one really discussed other options of like why it wasn't progressing.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't want to ask the questions either. Like,
Yeah, when you want more, sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah,
It's scary.
easier to be in the dark.
Yeah.
Or ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah, for
Maybe.
sure. Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you did to emotionally cope during that time? Or did you just kind of get on with things?
I think it was very much like, I mean, not probably a healthy way of doing it, but just kind of putting it in a box and putting it away in my mind and compartmentalizing, I guess, the grief. And then, you'd have a really hard day or a really good day with Sterling, and then if you're like sad sort of about it. I did seek some like counseling around it, and that was good, but I guess I haven't continued with it with the other losses. Notes was stuck to his face.
We have an interlude, gorgeous Olive. This is just mum life, isn't it? Yep. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing everything in regards to your loss and how that felt. I just want to now have a chat about your relationship and whether that was affected throughout the journey, like as you moved through. Was there any, I think anyone, when they're trying for a child, regardless of the situation, it can put pressure on relationships. Did you feel like there was any times that it affected your relationship for good or bad? You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. Also, that's more than fine.
I don't think it's something I'm not comfort. It's probably more like the other parenting stuff has interfered rather than like not happening. Like I think we focus on like the emotional regulation and stuff of Cam.
Yeah. Well, let's not ask that question outside. Leave that question out, editor.
Julie.
Throughout the time, talking about relationships throughout that difficult period, did you find it challenging or easy to open up to friends and family throughout that time, or did you keep it quite close to your chest?
I definitely kept it close to my chest. I guess Mum knew because Cam was away for one of the dating scans, and so Mum came with me, and that was when we found out that there was it was likely to be a blighted ovum. So obviously Mum knew then, but if she hadn't have been there, it wouldn't be something that we would have or I would have brought up.
Yeah.
And I'd be, I guess we would say, like, I'm open with friends about sort of saying, like, we've had miscarriages, but I don't really go into the emotive side of it. It's just kind of everyone has them. It's fine. Like, rather than having those deep conversations, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think in something, unless you've lived it, you can't really understand how that feels. Like, I think from the exterior, like, I know personally I didn't really fully understand, like, the depths of what that felt like until I'd lived it myself.
Yeah. And I think even like, everyone's losses and everyone's pregnancies are completely different. And so even though you've had losses, it can be hard to relate to someone else who's had a loss because they're not in the same like family situation or like mental health situation or whatever. So even sometimes it's hard to provide support even when you've had losses as well. Like, yeah.
Throughout that time, was there any support that was really meaningful for you? Or I guess if there's anybody listening and they might have a friend or a family member going through a similar thing, is there anything that was helpful for you from the people around you? Like, how could you best support someone who's going through that? Or is it better to just leave them on that? Like, what felt meaningful for you at the time? Or is there anything that specifically helped you?
I think sometimes like you don't even know in yourself like
Yeah.
how you feel about it or what you need. So I think it's just depending on the kind of friendship that you've got. Like I would like don't shy away from the question. Like ask them, what do you need from me in this moment? Like, and if you need me to leave you alone, like you're happy to. But if you need me to check in on you, that's probably helpful.
Yeah.
And even just like when you do have kids and, you know, people are always coming around, like dropping off food and things like that. Like even I think doing something like that when, you know, someone's gone through a loss, it can be hard to think about what to help them with or,
Yeah.
but even simple things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you find it challenging? Because I know that we're definitely in a period of our life that everybody around us is having babies. When you were going through that difficult time, how did you navigate pregnancy announcements, social media, people asking you? I mean, you've already touched on when you're having another baby, when you were going through that heartache.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Or was that challenging for you, or did you feel okay about it? Because everyone's different, of course.
I didn't like, I think sometimes that can be one of the things that stops people from wanting to tell you that they're pregnant because they think that your losses are going to make you sadder when you're trying and it's not happening. You know, I think people can sometimes not want you to or worry that you're going to feel some certain way. But like, I guess I was always happy when other people were announcing their pregnancies. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, just how it made you feel. Like, did you struggle during, like, if people were announcing pregnancies, or it was like enough, it wasn't difficult for you to navigate, you felt okay?
You know, I think that was like, obviously you're like, oh, you know, hopefully it'll be our turn soon. Yeah. And, you know, you're always happy for your friends to be having those moments. And I guess like once you start talking about the fact that you've had losses, you know, like you found out, I guess, everyone comes out of the woodworks and then they're happy to sort of share too. So a lot of your friends have sort of gone through the same boat and maybe not discussed it initially. And so, you know, you're overjoyed that they've, been successful in their pregnancy, even if you're still on your own path and struggling navigating that. Yeah.
And do you feel like throughout that journey, your grief was acknowledged, or like, do you wish that, I guess not even just only for yourself, that people who are going through that the grief of it was acknowledged a little bit more? Or did you feel like you preferred it to be sort of like your own personal journey?
I think, I think I probably should have been a bit more open, like similar to what you're doing. Like, and I guess, hang on, I'll start again. And what was I going to say? Can you just ask the question again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So throughout that period and even after your journey, do you feel like your grief was acknowledged, or you wanted your grief to be acknowledged more? Or even for anyone who is navigating that, you know, the similar journey to you, do you feel like the grief of that is acknowledged enough?
I think because we were then sort of successful with the other kids, and now you're so grateful that we've got the other two. And if any of the other ones had been successful, then we wouldn't have Ruby and Olive. That there's comfort sort of in that. And I guess your grief is kind of like taken up by the joy of the other two that you've got, or the three that I've got in my life. Yeah. Do I wish that I was probably more open with some of the losses that I had so that I could grieve a bit differently? Probably. Yeah. And there's probably still, you know, I think there's still that path that I know, I suppose at the moment you're sort of in the crux of having a newborn and a kid going to school and, you know, an 18-month-old who's navigating things. And so I guess you're sort of pausing your own stuff. And then I feel like once we're in a bit of a better groove with things, then, you know, it might be my time to sort of work through it a bit more, but it's easier to have it closed off for now and just be reveling in the joy of like the family that we now have, which is what you've always wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And now you've got 3 blue babies. Well, one isn't a baby anymore, but 2 little babies still. Which they might be part of the answer to this question. But I guess, what did healing look like for you? Or as you kind of said, you might still have some healing to do.
Yeah.
But are your babies very much part of your healing, do you think, from
Definitely.
places?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been, obviously fortunate to have that positive outcome after the secondary fertility and infertility, and having 2 more. And I think that's definitely helped my process of healing. And I guess knowing that if we had been successful previously, that we wouldn't meet these 2 beautiful girls that we've got. So there's comfort in that. And maybe if we had needed to stop with just Sterling, then there would be some grief with, the family of 3, and like not feeling like it's complete. But then, when it was just us 3, like it did feel very complete. And I guess when we did find out with Ruby, and I guess then she came into the world, which is when you could kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah.
You sort of, there was that grief then of the, not having that one-on-one time with Sterling as much as I did for 4 years. So it's sort of, that double-edged sword, I guess, of you want what you can't have. And
Yeah. And I guess something else that I just wanted to touch on that I guess a lot of people don't really talk about is, obviously, once you are pregnant with, a successful pregnancy, I don't know how you define success, but a lot of the time, like, how did you navigate the pregnancy with Ruby after all of your losses? Because I know that it is a place where fear and joy live side by side, and sometimes it causes more anxiety actually having that pregnancy, and it's really challenging to let that excitement creep in and let yourself forward think about what your life's going to look like, because that can be a really terrifying place.
Yeah.
How was that pregnancy for you? And was there any,
go.
Yeah.
Like I still enjoyed the pregnancy. Like I wasn't all that unwell, and I liked, feeling her kick and stuff, but I don't think I felt all that connected until she actually came out. Because even in birth, like things can go wrong, and I think you just always have in the back of your mind that, maybe it's not going to happen. And so it really sort of took a bit after she was born to kind of be like, oh, like we've got her and she's here and she's safe. And that, it was all, because you kind of go into scans expecting that something was maybe going to be wrong, or like, no heartbeat or something. And then, you'd be relieved, like it would more be that like relief that everything was fine. But you're like, but, the next time. So it does sort of suck. It did suck a little bit of that joy. Out of them. And then, it wasn't until, I guess, their birth, like both of the girls' birth, that you sort of like, we're good.
You can breathe again. Looking back now, is there anything that you wish you could have told yourself during that period for what you know now? Is there anything that you wish you could have said to yourself, or you had have known during that period?
Probably just keep going. Like, just, it doesn't matter how sad you are or stuff, just persist with it, because it's all worth it. Like, and all the losses, and, even though it's hard to say, like, all the losses were worth it, because I wouldn't be here with Olive and Ruby and Sterling, and they're perfect. And
Amazing. Is there anything that you wish maybe people that haven't experienced what you've gone through, kind of understood about recurrent pregnancy loss, or anything you would,
I think that's, you sort of go into, well, when you're younger, you do everything that you can to not get pregnant, and then all of a sudden it sort of switches. And, sometimes you don't find out things until you're in the midst of it, and that can be overwhelming. So, I guess if you're on your journey to have your first baby, or if you're trying for your second, then just maybe get all the information that you can. I guess we prepare for birth a lot, but you don't prepare yourself for losses. Because you sort of, I don't think you ever go into your family journey expecting that that's going to be part of it. Yeah. So just, doing things like this, reading or listening to podcasts and stuff that sort of talk about infertility and fertility, because sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And even when it's been easy the first time, it's not
necessarily the same time. So your journey, each pregnancy is different.
Yeah, for sure. And is there anything that this experience has taught you about yourself, your body, or motherhood?
I think sometimes, like, I remember, after birthing Sterling, like, I don't think I've ever been more proud of what my body can do, and still with the other two. But then there's those other times where you're like, you're so down on your body because it's not doing what everyone tells you is so natural to do. So there is that sort of, I guess, love-hate relationship with your body during pregnancies and things. But still very proud of what, our bodies can do. I think women are amazing, and every birth story is different.
Yeah.
Motherhood, love it. Very hard, obviously, but wouldn't change it for the world. And, one day we're going to be looking back at this podcast and there's not going to be that noise in our house and all the little trinkets that they're making for Christmas. And you're going to, look back at this time, even though it's chaotic and crazy, that, these are the days that you're going to wish for again. So
for sure.
And then just for anyone listening who might be in the thick of it right now or going through something similar to what you went through, is there anything you would want them to know or any advice you would give them right now?
I think just believe in yourself and, know that, hang on, I'll do that again. Yeah. My wife.
I mean, I think it was beautiful in what you said to yourself is just don't give up.
And just be kind to yourself. When things don't go the way you want it to, I think it's easy to just get so negative about your body and it not doing what you want it to do. But, hopefully it'll just, it'll work out when it's supposed to work out. And it seems silly to say that, like, what will be. But, I think when you come out the other side of it, you can sort of say that, like, that everything happens for a reason. And I guess that's how I feel, like, even though I'm sad about the losses that we have and we haven't met those children, like, I'm grateful for them because we got to meet their ones.
Yeah, amazing. And then is there anything else that you want to share?
No, just congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing. Your story is amazing. And I guess to give people out there some hope, that Steph obviously went through a lot to get her second baby, Ruby, but her third also came pretty quickly.
It did too.
So there is hope. I think there's different stages of your life, and just there's something to hold on to that, was meant to be will be.
Yeah. And just that, the first one was easy, Sterling came across easy, and then, the next one was tricky, and then Olive was quite easy. So just because your second one is tricky doesn't mean if you want to have more that you should be deterred from the challenges that you're facing to get your second. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Steph. This has been The Space Between Two Lines. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and register on our website to share your story. The link is in the bio. Until next time.